What happens when forbidden attraction ignites between a woman and her sister's fiancé? Can love truly conquer loyalty, or will the bonds of family be shattered beyond repair? As secrets unravel and choices are made, Ava and Ethan must confront the consequences of their undeniable connection. Will they choose each other and risk losing everything, or walk away to protect the ones they love? In this battle of hearts, there's no turning back. If you enjoyed this intense story of love, betrayal, and tough choices, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more captivating drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Hit that bell for updates. The lights of the city gleamed against the towering skyscrapers, casting a soft glow onto the streets below. Inside the Opal Lounge, a high-end bar perched on the top floor of one of the city's tallest buildings, the atmosphere buzzed with the hum of laughter and clinking glasses. The crowd was a mix of business elites and glamorous socialites, all gathered for a night of indulgence. The bar's sleek modern design exuded luxury, from the marble countertops to the crystal chandeliers overhead. At the far end of the bar, Ethan Blackwood sat alone, his tall figure cloaked in a dark-tailored suit that highlighted his chiseled features. He seemed detached, almost indifferent to the crowd around him, his piercing blue eyes lost in the swirl of his whiskey glass. Ethan had the kind of presence that made people pause, not out of arrogance but something deeper, an aura of power and control that could be felt before he even spoke. He was a man who had seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and his emotions were guarded as tightly as his wealth. Despite the glamorous crowd surrounding him, Ethan didn't seem to notice them. The noise and chatter faded into the background as he reflected on the day's business dealings, his thoughts far from the excitement of the present. The weight of his responsibilities and the cool detachment he wore like a second skin left him in a state of near solitude, until she walked in. Ava Sinclair, a woman with an air of effortless grace and a confident stride, entered the bar. Dressed in a form-fitting black dress, her long auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders in soft waves, and the gold necklace she wore gleamed under the lights. She wasn't here to drown in a sea of pretension or corporate chatter. Ava was looking for something far simpler, a break from the routine, a spark of excitement. Her eyes scanned the room, momentarily pausing on the crowd before falling on Ethan. Something about him caught her attention immediately, his stillness in the midst of chaos. While everyone around him was consumed by their conversations, Ethan seemed untouched by it all, his focus entirely on his drink. There was an intensity to him, a quiet mystery that piqued Ava's curiosity. She had always been drawn to enigmatic figures, and this man, with his aloofness and raw magnetism, intrigued her more than anyone else in the room. Ava smiled to herself. This was exactly what she needed, a distraction, a challenge. She adjusted her posture and moved toward him with purpose, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. "Mind if I join you?" Ava asked, her voice playful but steady as she leaned slightly toward him, her eyes meeting his with a look that was both bold and inviting. Ethan's gaze lifted slowly from his drink, his eyes locking with hers. For a moment, the world around them seemed to disappear, leaving just the two of them in the intimate bubble of the bar. He took in her appearance, her poised demeanor, the quiet confidence radiating from her. She wasn't like the usual women who flocked to him. This was different. "You're free to do whatever you like," Ethan replied, his voice low with a hint of amusement dancing behind his cool exterior. Ava smiled, taking the seat next to him without hesitation. "I'm Ava," she said, her eyes studying his reaction. "I usually don't make a habit of talking to strangers, but I guess you're an exception." Ethan's lips twitched, a small but unmistakable smirk forming. "An exception, huh? I'm flattered." "I'm not easily impressed," Ava said, her tone a playful challenge. "But I suppose you've got potential. What's your story? How does someone like you end up sitting alone at a bar on a night like this?" Ethan tilted his head slightly, intrigued by her audacity. "The same way anyone else ends up here, I suppose. A long day, a drink, some time to think." "And you?" Ava chuckled, swirling her drink in her hand. "Oh, I'm just here to enjoy the night. I don't make a habit of staying home staring at my phone. I prefer real conversations." Her words hung in the air between them, and for the first time in a long while Ethan felt the walls around him begin to crack, just slightly. She wasn't like the others. The women who usually sought his attention either threw themselves at him or praised him for his wealth. But Ava was different. "I'm not much for small talk," Ava continued, leaning in closer as if the noise of the room had disappeared entirely. "So tell me, what's it really like to live in your world? The one with the wealth, the power, is it all it's cracked up to be?" Ethan studied her for a moment, the spark of curiosity in her eyes matching his own. He wasn't used to people asking him about his life with such bluntness. "It has its moments," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "But there's more to it than just the shiny exterior. What about you, Ava? What do you get out of this?" Ava grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I get what I want. And right now what I want is a good conversation." She raised an eyebrow. "And maybe a little fun." Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. There was something refreshing about her confidence, so direct, so unbothered by the usual pretenses that came with wealth and status. He found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't expected. As the night wore on, the flirtation between them deepened, their playful banter laced with layers of unspoken attraction. Ava's curiosity about Ethan grew with each word he said, but she still couldn't quite place him. There was something about his quiet strength that kept her intrigued, but she had no idea just how different he truly was. Ethan, on the other hand, found himself captivated by Ava's effortless charm and boldness. She wasn't trying to win him over with flattery or material things. She was just herself unapologetically, and that, he realized, was what intrigued him the most. They parted ways that night with a promise to meet again, but neither of them knew that this encounter would lead them down a path of secrets, betrayal, and forbidden desires. The next day, Ava sat across from her older sister, Sophia Sinclair, at a cozy cafe in the heart of the city. The sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow on their table as they sipped their coffee. Ava leaned back in her chair, listening to Sophia talk about her life as they caught up. Sophia had always been the more grounded one. With a steady career and a picture-perfect engagement to Ethan Blackwood, the man she had been with for 2 years. "I can't believe we've been together this long," Sophia said, her eyes softening as she spoke about Ethan. "You know, he's been so great. He proposed last month. I never thought I'd meet someone like him." Ava smiled, teasing her sister lightly. "Oh, really? He must be some sort of superhero. You always did have a thing for the charming, mysterious type." Sophia chuckled. "I know, right? But he's not just that. He's got this calm, steady presence, like he's always in control of everything. It's one of the things I love about him." Ava took a slow sip of her coffee, her thoughts drifting elsewhere. "Funny, I met someone last night. Some rich guy at the bar, very aloof, cold but in a way that was interesting." She laughed, recounting the playful flirtation with Ethan, without realizing the connection between the man she had just described and her sister's fiancé. He was one of those types, you know. Quiet, almost detached, but you could tell he had power. He was intriguing. Definitely not the usual guys I meet. Sophia's smile faded slightly, but she didn't think much of it. "I'm sure he was a fascinating guy. But you know, Ava, I think you'd be better off with someone who isn't so distant. You deserve someone who is more present, someone who can really make you feel seen." Ava shrugged, not feeling particularly swayed by her sister's advice. She wasn't looking for anything serious, just a little fun, a distraction. The idea of Ethan, however, lingered in her mind. As they continued to chat, Ava's thoughts were preoccupied with the enigmatic man from the night before. Her mind replayed the brief interaction with Ethan, his soft, magnetic presence, his quiet confidence. There was something different about him compared to the men she was used to, something that kept her curiosity piqued. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and the more she thought about it, the more she found herself wondering about him. She couldn't quite shake the memory of his cool smile and the way his eyes had held hers, unbothered by the noise of the world around them. It was as if he existed in a world entirely of his own. She had met many men, but none had made her feel quite the way Ethan had. The more she reflected on their conversation, the more intrigued she became. Ava couldn't deny the pull she felt, an unspoken connection that went beyond simple flirtation. And yet, there was something she couldn't ignore. The fact that he had been so distant, so guarded. Why did he seem so detached? Was he hiding something? Was he really what he appeared to be? Meanwhile, Sophia, ever the attentive sister, couldn't help but notice that Ava seemed unusually distracted whenever Ethan's name came up in conversation. She brushed it off, assuming Ava was simply caught up in her own thoughts. But she didn't see the spark in her sister's eyes when she spoke of Ethan, nor the way Ava seemed to be carefully analyzing every detail of their previous interaction. It wasn't like Ava to be so absorbed in a man, especially one she had just met. Ava tried to push the thoughts of Ethan aside, but they continued to invade her mind. The more she tried to forget him, the more he lingered like a shadow that wouldn't leave. It was almost maddening, the pull to see him again, to understand him, to uncover what lay beneath that enigmatic exterior. There was something about him that she couldn't resist. Sophia, noticing the subtle tension in her sister's demeanor, raised an eyebrow. "I have been quiet lately, Ava. Is something on your mind?" Ava quickly snapped out of her thoughts and forced a smile. "Oh, nothing. Just thinking. You know how it is. Always busy." Sophia didn't press her any further, but her concern grew. It wasn't like Ava to be this preoccupied with a man, especially someone she had just met. The thought lingered in the back of her mind, but she decided not to make a big deal out of it, at least not yet. Ava, however, wasn't so sure. The temptation to reach out to Ethan, to meet him again, was growing stronger with each passing day. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than just a simple encounter, but guilt gnawed at her. He was taken, Sophia's fiancé. That was enough to stop her, to remind her of the lines she shouldn't cross. And yet, there was that nagging feeling, that attraction that seemed to transcend logic. Her mind raced as she considered the consequences. If she reached out to Ethan again, there was no going back. The risk of betraying her sister, of disrupting everything Sophia had worked so hard for, was too great. And yet, the thought of walking away from the mystery of Ethan, of never seeing him again, seemed unbearable. Ava had never been one to shy away from temptation, but this felt different. She didn't know if it was the allure of Ethan's quiet strength, or the way he had made her feel in that brief moment at the bar. But she knew that she wanted more. The pull to see him again, to understand him, was too overwhelming. Despite her reservations, Ava knew she was already too far gone. And that temptation, as dangerous as it was, would be hard to ignore. The grand ballroom of the charity event sparkled under the glow of chandeliers, casting a soft light on the elegantly dressed crowd. The air was filled with soft laughter, hushed conversations, and the clinking of glasses as guests mingled, all while Ethan Blackwood worked the room with an effortless charisma. He was the host of the evening, his presence commanding attention as he moved between groups, exchanging pleasantries with high-profile donors and guests. Ava, standing by the large windows with a glass of champagne in hand, scanned the crowd, the events of the past few days swirling in her mind. She had come to this charity event with her sister, Sophia, who was glowing in a deep red gown, happily engaged in conversation with a few of their friends. But as Ava's eyes roamed the room, they landed on Ethan. Her breath caught in her throat. There he was, standing beside Sophia, laughing, the two of them in their own little world. It hit her like a ton of bricks, the realization that Ethan, the man she'd spent hours talking to and flirting with, was Sophia's fiancé. It wasn't just any random wealthy man she'd been drawn to. Ethan was the one person who had been off limits from the start. But she had been so caught up in the allure of his mystery and the chemistry they shared that she hadn't connected the dots until now. Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched them interact. Sophia's face was lit up with happiness, the way she always looked when she was around Ethan, but Ava couldn't ignore the knot tightening in her stomach. She had been flirting with her sister's fiancé, the very man Sophia adored. The weight of it settled heavily on her, but she couldn't look away. Sophia caught Ava's gaze and smiled, motioning for her to come over. Ava's feet felt like lead as she reluctantly walked toward them. She approached with a tight smile, doing her best to mask the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "Ava, there you are. I'm so glad you could make it," Sophia said brightly, introducing her to one of Ethan's business partners. Ethan glanced at Ava, and for the briefest moment, their eyes locked. Ava felt a jolt run through her, but she quickly turned her attention back to Sophia, her heart racing in her chest. She could feel the growing tension between her and Ethan, the unspoken understanding that hovered just beneath the surface. It wasn't until later in the evening that the truth would finally be laid bare. The event had died down, the crowd beginning to thin as guests started to leave. Ava found herself standing alone on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. She was lost in her thoughts when Ethan appeared beside her, his presence looming behind her like a shadow. "I didn't expect to see you here," Ava said, trying to keep her voice steady as she turned to face him. Ethan didn't speak immediately. Instead, he leaned against the railing, his eyes fixed on the horizon. After a moment, he spoke, his voice low but steady. "I didn't expect to see you here either." Ava crossed her arms over her chest, trying to keep her emotions in check. "Why didn't you tell me the truth, Ethan? Why didn't you tell me you were engaged to Sophia?" The words felt like a weight on her tongue, thick with the mixture of betrayal and longing. Ethan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't think it would come to this, Ava. I never meant for you to get caught up in any of this. When we met, I wasn't trying to flirt with you. I was just drawn to you. You're different from anyone I've met. I couldn't help myself." Ava's pulse quickened as she stepped closer to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "So what? You knew the whole time that I was your fiancé's sister, and you still let me think you were just some rich guy looking for a good time?" Ethan's jaw clenched as he turned to face her, his eyes intense. "I never meant to hurt you, Ava. The truth is, I've been attracted to you since the moment we met, but I never wanted to cross any lines. I know what I've done is wrong, but it doesn't change how I feel." Ava felt a surge of anger and confusion flood through her. How could he have let it go this far? She had given herself to the idea of him, not knowing that he was someone else's, someone so close to her. The betrayal stung, but beneath the hurt, there was a flicker of something she couldn't ignore. She wanted him. She still wanted him. Tears threatened to spill, but she fought them back. "You don't get to just claim that you've been drawn to me, Ethan. You've been playing with me. You're engaged to my sister, and yet here we are, having this conversation. It's too late for us." Ethan stepped closer, his voice softer now. "I didn't plan this. I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not Sophia. But Ava, I can't deny what's between us. I can't just ignore it. And I didn't think it would be this complicated." Ava looked away, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. "It doesn't matter anymore. You're engaged to her." Before Ethan could respond, they both heard the sound of footsteps approaching from behind. Ava turned to find Sophia standing there, her face pale, her eyes wide with shock. She had overheard everything. The realization hit Sophia like a punch to the gut. Her heart shattered as she took in the painful truth. Her trust in both her sister and fiancé was shattered. She had always known there were some unspoken tensions between Ava and Ethan, but she never imagined it would come to this. Her mind raced as her thoughts spun into chaos. "No," Sophia whispered, her voice shaking. "No, this can't be happening." Ava, unable to meet her sister's gaze, stepped back. Her throat tightened with guilt and regret, but there was no way to undo what had already been said. She had crossed a line, one she didn't even know she had been teetering on. "Sophia, Ava began, but the words caught in her throat. Sophia turned to Ethan, her eyes filling with tears. "How long, Ethan? How long have you been lying to me? To us?" Ethan swallowed hard, his expression tortured. "Sophia, I never wanted this to happen. I care about you, but—" Sophia shook her head, the pain evident in her eyes. Don't even try to justify this. You've already betrayed me. Both of you." She looked at Ava, her sister's face filled with sorrow. "I trusted you. Both of you." The emotional confrontation left them all raw and vulnerable. There were no more words left to say, only the painful truth that would tear their relationships apart. The days following the confrontation felt like a blur for Ava. The weight of her guilt sat heavily on her chest, and every time she tried to shake it off, it only grew stronger. She had betrayed her sister, the woman who had always been there for her, the woman she had shared countless moments with. The truth about her feelings for Ethan had torn everything apart. Even though her heart still ached for him, the shame of what had happened left her questioning herself. Ava spent the next few days alone, not knowing how to face Sophia or Ethan. She couldn't ignore the connection she had felt with Ethan, the way their conversations had flowed so easily, the way his presence had drawn her in from the very first moment they met. But it was wrong. It was wrong to want him, to love him, when he was Sophia's fiancé. Meanwhile, Sophia distanced herself from both of them. The betrayal stung too deeply for her to even look at Ava, let alone talk to her. She had always trusted Ethan, believed in their relationship, and now everything felt like a lie. She kept to herself, retreating into the solitude of her apartment. It was easier than confronting the pain, easier than facing the truth that the man she had planned to marry had betrayed her in the worst possible way. And it was easier than dealing with her sister, the person she thought she could trust above all else. Ethan, too, was in turmoil. The guilt of his actions weighed heavily on him, but the pull toward Ava was undeniable. Every time he closed his eyes, all he could see was her bright eyes, her confidence, the way she made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. His feelings for her had grown in ways he hadn't expected. And now he was faced with an impossible choice: stay with Sophia, the woman he had planned a future with, or follow his heart and pursue a relationship with Ava, even if it meant losing everything he had built. The nights were the hardest. He'd find himself staring at the ceiling, wondering if he could continue living in the lie he had created. His relationship with Sophia had always been stable, predictable and safe. But it wasn't real, not in the way it needed to be. Ethan had always kept a part of himself closed off, a part of him he hadn't shared with anyone, not even Sophia. But with Ava, that part of him had come alive. He knew he had to make a choice, one that would change everything. In a moment of self-reflection, Ethan came to a decision. He couldn't live with the weight of the lie any longer. He knew that he had been selfish, but the truth was, his feelings for Ava were stronger than his sense of duty. He couldn't deny the depth of what they had shared, and the idea of walking away from it now seemed impossible. He picked up his phone, dialing Sophia's number. It rang several times before she finally answered, her voice strained. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you," Ethan said, his voice steady but filled with regret. "We need to talk." Sophia agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe, the same place where they had celebrated their engagement months ago. The irony wasn't lost on Ethan as he sat across from her, the weight of what he was about to say hanging between them like a heavy cloud. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Sophia," Ethan began, his voice thick with emotion, "but I've realized that I can't keep pretending. I'm not the man I promised I would be. My feelings for Ava, they've changed everything." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "How could you do this to me, Ethan?" "I loved you. I trusted you." "I know," Ethan said, his heart breaking as he looked at her. "And I never meant for it to happen this way. But I've been lying to you, to myself, and I can't do it anymore. I care about you, but I can't marry you. Not when my heart belongs to someone else." Sophia looked away, her face crumpling in pain. The weight of his words was too much to bear. "So that's it then? After everything, you're just going to leave me for her?" Ethan nodded, his throat tight. "I never wanted it to come to this, but yes, I have to be honest with myself. And with you." The silence between them was suffocating. After a long pause, Sophia stood up, her eyes red and swollen. She couldn't bear to stay in that cafe any longer, not with the crushing weight of betrayal sitting in her chest. "I need time, Ethan. I need to process all of this," she said quietly, turning away from him. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for with Ava." Ethan watched as she left, the ache in his chest growing stronger. He knew that what he had done couldn't be undone, and the damage had already been done. But he also knew that he had made the right choice, for him at least. Ethan didn't waste any time. He found Ava later that evening, standing alone in the park near her apartment. He walked toward her, his heart racing. There was no more hesitation, no more second-guessing. He needed her to know the truth. "Ava," he said softly, his voice filled with raw emotion, "I've made my choice." Ava looked at him, her heart heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. "What do you mean?" "I've broken off my engagement with Sophia," Ethan said, his eyes locked onto hers. "I want to be with you, Ava. No more lies, no more pretending. I know it's complicated, but I can't walk away from this." "From you?" Ava felt a wave of relief flood through her, but it was accompanied by a deep sense of guilt. "Ethan, I don't know what to say. I still feel terrible about everything. About Sophia, about us." "I know," he said gently, reaching for her hand. "But this is real. We can't change the past, but we can choose what comes next." Ava hesitated, her heart torn between the love she felt for Ethan and the guilt she carried for betraying her sister. But as she looked into Ethan's eyes, she knew that she couldn't deny what she felt. "I love you, Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but I can't ignore what's between us. I want to be with you too." And with that, they made their decision. Together, they would face the consequences of their actions, but they knew they had to try. They couldn't ignore their connection, no matter how complicated it was. The story ended with Ethan and Ava walking hand in hand into an uncertain future, but one they were ready to face together. Their relationship, though unconventional and painful, was a testament to the complexities of love, loyalty, and the bonds of family. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were prepared to face them together.